on the web, and in your hands. This is MDiTV.
This story is about some of the increasingly complex medical technology we depend on and how to deal with problems, adverse events as they're known, that too often harm or even kill patients. Specifically, we're talking about infusion pumps. Millions of them are in use in hospitals, nursing facilities, and in homes to deliver painkillers, chemotherapy, insulin, and almost every other kind of drug. The pumps are a great convenience when they work right, but about 100 people a year in the U.S. die when something goes wrong. When a death or injury or other problem with an infusion pump is reported to the Federal Food and Drug Administration, which happens more than 11,000 times a year, the typical response has been to investigate and, if necessary, recall some pumps. Between 2005 and 2009, the FDA says there were 87 recalls of infusion pumps due to safety concerns. Regulators have noticed patterns in the reports, and so the agency has decided that responding case by case just isn't good enough anymore.
What's different here is we are dealing with systemic problems for this technology. We've seen problems with all the different kinds of infusion pumps on the market across manufacturers.
Dr. Jeffrey Shuren directs the FDA Center for Devices and Radiological Health. One example he gives is called a key bounce. You go to punch in 20, but if the 0 is read twice, then the machine will deliver 10 times the intended dose. Depending on the drug, that error could be lethal.
Sometimes the operators think they're the ones who are at fault, and we've gone back and we've looked at those adverse event reports, and we've determined that in a number of cases it's a problem with the design of the device, and that's one of the reasons we're coming out with this initiative.
Shuren says the FDA plans to offer industry new types of assistance to avoid hardware and software designs linked to patterns of problems. There will also be new requirements. For instance, he says that too often new pumps, as well as other devices, are tested under ideal conditions, calm and quiet settings with expert operators.
And it's critical that you design your device in the setting and testing it in the setting where it's intended to be used with the people who are intended to use it. If you have an infusion pump that's going to be used in the home, test in the home, test it with a lay caregiver, because that person isn't going to have the same expertise as a doctor and nurse.
The president of an independent institute that evaluates medical devices is watching how the new FDA attitude plays out.
Looking globally at the types of problems that they see across the technology is a big shift. Many individual researchers at FDA know about global problems, but they never as an agency decided to bring that forth, to communicate that to manufacturers.
But Jeffrey Lerner says trying to engage with industry early in the design process introduces some new wrinkles into the relationship between business and regulators.
Once you start to give advice on how to design, and you are also the evaluator of how people carry out that advice, you may have more of a mixed role that will have to be managed. It's a tough issue for a regulating agency.
For instance, the FDA says it won't reveal trade secrets to competitors. But if the agency staff knows that Company A has figured out a really cool fix for a problem, how do they talk to Company B about how to avoid an inferior design without revealing what they've learned from Company A? The FDA has sent draft guidance to manufacturers and has been collecting responses. Changing regulatory procedures takes time, and then new infusion pumps will have to be designed, tested, approved, and produced before the effects of the new policy are seen at the bedside. So what do you do in the meantime if you or someone you know is using a pump now? Well, the FDA has posted advice to users on how to minimize the risks of using an infusion pump. And we go on a home visit in our other report on infusion pumps. I'm Andrew Holtz, MDiTV News.